Hi everyone, it's the Tides Changing here, and welcome to the first part in a new building series I'm starting in which I will be furnishing Berrywine Acres, the farmhouse that I made for my collab with Swimming with Abby a few weeks ago. But before I get into the building and why I'm doing this series, I'm just doing a quick creative sim to make a household to go with this home, since I did that for the shotgun style renovation and a lot of you seemed to enjoy it and I had a lot of fun with it. So since this is a farmhouse, I'm making a traditional farming family who, makes their living off of tending to the land. And first up is the father of the family, who I gave him kind of a serious and strong look, since, he's got to be fit from, tending a farm. So I just was trying to give him kind of a, typical farmer look. Maybe I went a little bit too farmerish, but his traits are animal lover, technophobe, green thumb, family-oriented, and good. So, he doesn't want any technology in their house at all. So, they might have some things, but, maybe they'll have like an old television living room, that'll be about it. Very little in the way of technology, and if they have a computer, it's going to be an older one. This isn't going to be a very high-tech house, I'm going to try to keep it very traditional. And here I'm making the wife, and her name is Joyce Burke. And I used the hair that came with the Bohemian Garden set, since, I did kind of use the stuff from the Bohemian Garden set on the outside a lot. So I was trying to keep with that, I guess farmer look, which I think the bandana works for that. I really like how it looks. And she, of course, helps her husband tend to the land. I guess also there are teenage kids who you'll see in a little bit help as well. And she isn't really as traditional or as much of a technophobe as her husband is, but, I feel like she's still the kind of person who's reluctant to update operating systems because she'd have to learn something new and doesn't want to deal with it, but at the same time, she's not afraid of it, like her husband is. And in addition to gardening, she also enjoys cooking, and her traits are green thumb, natural cook, family-oriented, friendly, and dog person. And her favorite color is also spiceberry. I forgot to mention that her husband Jonathan Burke's favorite color is green, so that will influence some of the decorating in the house. And here's the first of their teenage children. His name is Milo, and he's a lot different than his parents in the way that he loves technology. He just can't get enough of the newest TVs, newest computers, newest video games, which his parents aren't happy about, so they decide, if you want the new, all the newest stuff, you're gonna have to buy it yourself and keep it in your room. We do not want to see it. So his traits are cat person, computer whiz, shy, and slob. And there are going to be a lot of pets to go with this household, since I did kind of want it to be sort of pets themed. So at the end, there will be a bunch of pets, but here is their other teenage child, and her name is Molly. And she loves horses. She's the kind of, girl who always dreamed of getting a pony, and she finally got her wish. Her parents decided to get her a horse, when she turned 16, I guess, so she's been bonding with her horse. And her traits are good, excitable, equestrian, and flirty. And her favorite color is pink, so she's definitely a girly girl. And lastly, here's their youngest child, who is a toddler, so there's quite an age difference, and his name was Robert. And here we're making the first of their pets, and this is a dog named Rufus, which is who's kind of like Jonathan's pet. He gave the pet a very traditional name because he's a traditional guy. And this is Joyce's dog, and is a Cocker Spaniel named Lady. And here we're making Milo's cat, since, he's a cat lover. And I gave him a Bengal cat named Gizmo, since I felt like that was, a computer whiz type cat name. And here is Molly's horse, who is named Nikki. And I just made her a paint horse. So that is the end of the creative sim. Now we are moving on to the actual furnishing. And the reason why I decided to do this series is that I really loved how this house turned out, and as I was making it, I kept thinking about how, I really wanted to furnish it myself, and I thought it would be fun to do so, since I think it turned out to be such an interesting house. And I hadn't done a Let's Build series in a while. I think the last one ended in February, so it's been like almost 6 months since that one ended. So I thought it'd be fun to do another slower building series like that, so you guys can see more of the details, since it's moving, it's only sped up 3 times instead of 8 times like speed build videos tend to be. So, I can go more into depth on my thought process, and you guys can also tell what's going on a little bit more. So I thought it'd be really fun to show it this way. And what I'm doing here is I was just trying to figure out the floor plan, since in this video we will be doing the dining room and kitchen, so I was just trying to figure out how to arrange those. And I wanted to have the foyer go into the dining room. I was originally going to put the kitchen at the front of the house, but I was thinking about it, and I kind of wanted the foyer to go into either the kitchen or the dining room, and I didn't want it to be one open room because this is a more traditional house, and, this is a traditional family, so I felt like they weren't really going to go tampering with things and giving it an open floor plan, and older homes didn't really have open floor plans. I feel like it was more separate rooms and just kind of cozy feeling. So I wanted to keep the dining room and kitchen separate, but I felt like if I put the kitchen in the front of the house, it wouldn't make as much sense because, you know, if you're in the living room and you want to go to the kitchen to get a snack, you have to go through the dining room to get to the kitchen, then back through the dining room, you know? So it's kind of like you're going through, it doesn't flow as well, I feel like, you know? Like, I feel like it makes more sense if you're hungry to go into the kitchen, get your food, and then from there go to the living room, you know, go back to the living room or go to the dining room. And also, that way the dining room would be at the front of the house. So, you know, when you come in through the foyer, that's when you would go through instead of into the kitchen, which I feel like if you have guests over makes more sense because, you know, they would come into the dining room rather than going through the kitchen because, you know, they're not really going to be preparing food. I don't know if this makes any sense, but I felt like it would work better to have the entertaining area off of the foyer where guests would come through. So that's kind of my reason for arranging it like that. You know, I was kind of thinking about the flow of the house, if that makes any sense. And the dining room ended up being a bit bigger than the kitchen, but I guess that's, you know, I wanted this house to have bigger entertaining areas. So for the dining room table, I just used the table that came with the Mediterranean kitchen set. I used that table because I wanted to use a table that was 3 tiles long, if that makes any sense. And the other ones I felt were too contemporary, you know, like they weren't really traditional enough. But I felt like this one perfectly fit, and I was playing around with putting those tables that I believe came with World Adventures on the ends and then putting just plain wood tables in the middle, but I feel like that looked kind of odd just to have different chairs like that, you know, like it didn't really make sense. And I also put that fruit basket in there as a centerpiece. And I was trying to experiment with putting a plant in the center of the table to make it look a little bit more interesting, but I ended up deciding not to do that just because it ended up not looking right whenever I try that. So I don't know, I just kept it simple and left it as just the fruit bowl. And here I'm putting a rug underneath of it, of course, just so it's not all wood floor, you know, to kind of make the floor area look a little bit more interesting. As far as the actual look and design of the room goes, I wanted to give it a very rich and warm feeling, and I wanted to use a lot of warmer colors such as browns and yellows and greens, and also use a lot of wood patterns and have a lot of decorations on the walls and the floors. You know, I didn't want this room to look at all sparse. I wanted it to look very well decorated, maybe even slightly cluttered. I don't really think it turned out that cluttered though. But here I'm changing the chairs to be a green color, and I made them all the same chair because, like I said, I didn't really like there being the wood chairs in the middle. But the green color here, like I said, gives it, I think, a warm and earthy feeling, which I really like. And I definitely think it looks a lot better than having the, you know, the wooden chairs there. And here I'm putting up the curtains, and as far as the curtains go, I did end up going with an orange color for them just because, you know, I feel like I wanted something different than the green, but I wanted to still have a very warm feeling. And I guess maybe this is kind of more of a coral color. I don't know, it's kind of a reddish orange. You know, since I wanted to go reddish since red's a complementary color to green, but I didn't want to go Christmas red, so I felt like that was good. And in that corner there, I placed a wooden dining chair just because, I don't know, you know, maybe they've got extra random dining chairs sitting there that if they have a lot of guests, they can just pull up. And I put a painting on that wall there because, like I said, I want to have a lot of wall decorations. And here I was trying to play around with making this kind of shelf slash hutch. I wouldn't say a hutch look, but I just want to have some decorative shelves up there next to the windows, and I didn't like that space between the windows and the shelves, so I just put some columns in there to fill it in and maybe make it look more like the shelf was kind of built in there. And I just think it's really nice to look down, you know, at the end of the dining room table, as you can see here and see that there. It's just definitely a nice decorative look, and here I changed the ceiling to be wood just because, you know, I didn't really want to stick with that plain white ceiling. But here I'm placing the decorations on there, and I put that little glass dove on the top shelf there since, you know, I don't really like items on shelves going into the ceiling. That was a rather short item, and I really like that little glass dove. Like, I tend to put plants everywhere, so it's just nice to have something that looks nice and isn't a plant. And I believe that came with the, was it, I want to say Contemporary Comfort store set. It was Contemporary something. I don't think it was Contemporary Comfort. Maybe it was. I'm not exactly sure. But that's also where that tea kettle with the flower in it came from as well. And here's just placing this hutch behind the table just because, you know, I thought it'd be a nice touch to have an actual hutch in there, and it really helps with that warm and well-decorated feeling and kind of that lived-in look too. And in this corner here, I put an actual armchair rather than just another, you know, dining chair, and I didn't want to put a plant in that corner. I was originally going to put a plant there, but I don't want to put too many plants in rooms, you know, because when you put so many plants in a room, I feel like it just looks like you're just sticking stuff somewhere to put it somewhere, although I guess that's kind of what I do with the chair, but I feel like the chair looks, you know, a little more realistic, I guess, than just sticking another plant in that corner. And that's just about all the furnishing in the dining room, so now I'm actually going to work on the walls. For the walls, I wanted to keep it that rich look like I said, so rather than just going for straight paint, I used paneling. You know, and I wanted to use wood paneling just to make things look a little bit richer. I'm not really sure of another word to explain what I mean. But I was originally trying to make the paneling white, but then I didn't really like how they looked. I felt like it was a little bit too contemporary, you know, I wanted to have a very traditional look, so I went with a darker wood on the paneling, and I like how that looks, and it kind of goes well with the lighter flooring and, you know, the other darker woods in the room. And I changed the wallpaper to be a greenish stripe. So I just really like how this looks, and this is pretty much the completed dining room. I really love how the dining room turned out. The kitchen, I'm moving on to the kitchen now, and I know you would think, like, this is a larger house, you know, it would have a big kitchen, but I don't know, I just feel like for this house, I kind of wanted a cozy kitchen. But, you know, I did put some nice equipment in it because, you know, the wife's a cook, so she's got to have a nice stove, a nice fridge. So, you know, I didn't just go with the cheapest ones. And I was trying to experiment with making the cabinets blue. You know, I thought it'd be something a little bit different and interesting than just going with wood like I normally do. But I'm not 100% sure on that now looking back. And, I mean, if you guys see something that I did and you're kind of like, it doesn't really look that great, you know, feel free to let me know in the comments and I'll take it into consideration. You know, I might not always take suggestions that you guys give. You know, sometimes I might be like, you know, I kind of like what I did and I don't really want to change it, but I feel like in the previous Let's Build series that I did, more often than not, I did take suggestions that you guys, you know, made, because I feel like that makes for a better house, you know, because sometimes I overlook things, sometimes I do things that, you know, I might think looks good, and then I end up later looking at them like, So sometimes you guys catch those things for me, and, you know, I feel like, you know, together we can make a better house, if that makes sense. So, you know, feel free to leave any suggestions, particularly for the kitchen, because I'm not, like, 100% sure that I'm going to leave it as it is. I'm probably going to go back in the next part and change it, honestly, because I wasn't quite sure of something. So feel free to let me know any changes you think I should make to the kitchen. And, I mean, I do want to keep the size like this, you know, like I said, I wanted to keep it being a cozy kitchen. I also like that this kitchen is kind of also a side entrance to the house, since you have that sliding door right there off of a nice deck. So I really like that, and here I was playing around with this kind of older looking tile. I did want to go with white tile originally. I felt like that tile was a little bit too busy though, so I ended up just going with a smaller tile that you see here. And this tile is white, and I kept the blue in there in the grout originally just because I was like, oh, you know, the counters are blue, that's a nice blue accent. But I do change it later on because it doesn't really look that great, and I was experimenting with making this rug spiceberry color since that was the wife's favorite color, and, you know, she'd be cooking in this kitchen. But I feel like it just looked odd to have, you know, the blue cabinets and then spiceberry color, and, you know, it looked too contemporary, I feel. So I just went with a more classic orange color just to complement the blue, since I do like mixing blue and orange just because they are complementary colors. Same with red and green. They just go very well together, and here I'm just adjusting the color of that rug since I wasn't really a fan of how it was originally. And here I'm using this curtain. I've been using this curtain a lot in the kitchen lately. It's just a perfect kitchen curtain. I really like how it looks. And I'm just making it orange like the other curtain there just to keep with that theme. I forgot to mention that I did put the canning station that came with the old mill set in this house. I felt like it was perfect since, you know, they garden a lot, and with that set you can can vegetables and crops that you pick. So, you know, I figured they could be making money from picking and selling fresh vegetables, and then they could also be canning the excess and, you know, selling the canned stuff as well. So I just feel like it fit into this house really, really well. I mean, if I had the baking station, I would consider putting that in, but I never got that set. And I also put in this apron. I can't remember what set that came with, but I put in that as well. You know, I feel like it was a nice look for additional kitchen. I was also playing around with putting decorative shelves in that area right there, you know. But that shelf looked a little bit odd because it wasn't one of the ones that you can move up and down, so it was just like right on that. So I tried this shelf that you actually could move, but I felt like it was weird to have coffee mugs above the canning station, you know, like you wouldn't really want to reach over that to get a coffee mug in the morning. So I do end up taking that out a little bit. And I was trying to play around with some other, you know, with moving the decorations around a bit. That diagonal wall is a little bit odd, but I ended up going with this one since it didn't really have anything hanging off of it, and you could also, you know, move it up and down. And I believe that also came with the Mediterranean kitchen set. Pretty sure it did. Next, I wanted to put some more decorative objects onto the counters, so I ended up putting this traditional looking bread box in there. And I think that has a really nice look, and it fits in very well with this kitchen. And another thing that I wanted to put in was just the box with the mason jars in it that came with the old mill set. You know, I figured since they had the canning station. It makes sense to just have some mason jars sitting around the kitchen. So I ended up finding that and then putting it there on that counter. And I think when if I go, I'm probably going to go back, like I said, and fix some things in the kitchen. And I was thinking about changing the counters and cabinets from being blue. Just because looking back, I'm not really sure on that. So, maybe it would look better if they were just wood instead of just being blue wood, Let me know what you guys think. But here I was just changing the pattern of the rug just because I wanted to be something other than plain carpet. So I went with the same snowflake-ish type pattern that was on the rug there in the dining room just to make it look richer. And I wanted to have something in the middle of the floor there, but I realized that having a counter island just looked, I guess it looked a little bit too contemporary, it just didn't look right. So I ended up just sticking a table right in there because I felt like, that would just be something that they could just go in and add later, like, oh, we need a little more surface area in this kitchen, let's just stick a table right in the middle of it. I feel like that would be an easier type thing than just sticking in island counters, it fits in better with this traditional house. And I placed the mason jars and a lemonade pitcher on that. I thought that would just look nice on there on that table. And here I'm picking out the walls for the kitchen, and I did the same thing that I did in the monotone, the shotgun style renovation, in case you didn't see that, where I just put a, paint wall on and changed the pattern to be a very small tile. And I made it blue to kind of go with the counters there. And as for the floor, I felt like those small tiles looked weird, so I changed them to be a little bit larger, and I put that little home sweet home wall hanging type thing right there. And then I decided to change the walls other than the, ones along the stove and sink area to be orange, just so the whole kitchen was a tile. And I was also planning on changing the color of the rug under there so it wasn't all orange. And I also decided to change the floor to be blue just because I felt like the white was a little bit too plain. But, I think that ended up making the kitchen look a little bit too blue. I did change it back to white, to play around with trying to get the rug back to orange since I felt like it looked weird to have a gray rug on blue floor. Changing the floor black to blue was the last thing I did in this part, and I hope you all really enjoyed this new series so far. I'm thinking the next part of it will be up on Saturday, hopefully. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and bye!